Best orgasm you ever had?
Oh my God. How much time do we have? I had essentially what I've come to understand is like a Kundalini awakening. I felt like a lightning bolt shot right down through the top of my head, splitting me in half, hitting my cervix. I was high for 3 full days.
Oh
I
my
drove
God.
home that night and had to pull over on multiple occasions because I could not see.
Hello and welcome. Today I'm joined by Caitlyn V. Caitlyn is a renowned sex and relationship coach specializing in helping men overcome erectile dysfunction, performance anxiety, and premature ejaculation.
Thank
So
you.
I'm going to
Thank you.
dive right in if that's okay with you.
Yeah, let's go.
Whenever I get in bed with somebody new, we're all excited. We got that new relationship energy. I'm always very upfront about the fact that I use vibrators, and they're sure they can make me come without a vibrator. That's thing one. They'll start with foreplay, and then they get tired and move right to penetration. How can we help men be better lovers of women?
Let me start with just the foreplay to penetration part, right? Because one of the things that I like to really emphasize is thinking about things in scales and on spectrums and the idea of variation and titration. Titration, when you get put on a medication and you have to start taking a little bit and then a little more and a little more, or coming off of it little by little, right? So
Yep.
that idea really applies very well to sex and intimacy, especially when it comes to the female body. If we think about this on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being like the lightest, the least intense touch, and 10 being the most intense touch, the hardest, the fastest touch that you can give, a lot of men in particular start way closer to 10 than 1. And so they burn out really quickly. They get tired, as you were saying. This is also one of the reasons that they end up ejaculating too soon. And one of the reasons that they can end up losing their erection is because if we start very close to a 10, we don't have a whole lot of places to go. Right? Can't get much harder, can't get much faster, can't get much deeper than where we started. And if we start at a 1, then we can go to a 4, we can go back to a 2, we can go all the way up to a 7, we can go back to a 4, we can come back to a 5, we can go back to a 4, we can come back to it. Like we have a lot more possibility from the very beginning. And so one of the key pieces of advice that I give to men and to women is to slow the heck down. Start all of your intimate encounters with non-genital pleasurable touch, move to include the erogenous zones, move slowly to bring in the other parts of their body, then move slowly to bring in manual or oral sex, move slowly. So if you really titrate the experience, and then the idea of variation is like switch between oral and manual, switch between making out and massaging each other, switch between I'm on top, you're on top, switch between this is what we're doing and oh, we're taking a break to adjust the music or the lighting and get the toys out or get the waterproof blanket out or whatever. Like when you have titration and variation, you have a lot more to work with from the very beginning. You're a lot less likely to get burnt out. You're a lot less likely to overwhelm somebody's like physical body with their nerve endings, right? That's too much too soon. Body shuts down. You're less likely to overwhelm them energetically by coming on too strong, too fast, right? It will make sex better for her. It will also give him more information on what is pleasurable for her. And it's also beneficial for him.
How do you slow down when you're like, I know even I get caught in the moment.
One of the things that I recommend is setting boundaries. There's a playful way to utilize boundaries that causes both of us to slow down. So, like our agreement the first time that we're in bed together is no penetration or no like PIV penetrate. You can penetrate me with your fingers, but no PIV, or maybe even no oral sex. Maybe we are allowed to like just use our hands and we're allowed to make out and use our mouths on everything like above the belly button and below the knees, but nothing else. You're free to make them whatever it is that you want. Playful, fun boundary that is just going to be put in place so that both of us maintain our commitment and our intention to moving slowly, to learning about each other's bodies, to bringing our bodies together in a way that feels like very intentional, but also very exciting. Because one of you may be like, oh, God, it feels so good. And the other person, your responsibility is to be like, nope, we agreed that we weren't going to do that. And we'll see each other next weekend. It can be very hot. Yeah. Another thing that we can do is regulate our nervous systems together, which is like very intimate and can be a little scary, especially when we're first getting to know somebody. But just taking some deep breaths together. If you want to pair it with eye contact, great. If eye contact feels too intense, also fine. Just inhaling and exhaling at the same time will, in a matter of minutes, help both of your nervous systems to regulate with each other and to bring it down a couple clicks, right? We want to feel warm and compassionate towards other people. That's the ideal place to be engaging in a sexual encounter from. That's where we're going to experience the most joy, pleasure, oxytocin release. That's the winning combination, right?
That's great advice. Just looking in each other's eyes and breathing or touching creates a connection much more profound than just jumping in because you're horny.
If you're not willing to breathe and eye gaze with someone for 5 minutes, like, why are you willing to have them inside of your body or go inside of their body? Consider this as a litmus test for if you want to even continue to mix your energies together like that.
That's a great point. Can you talk about the biggest mistakes that men make that where women are concerned that like they absolutely are clueless about when you tell them?
I think the biggest mistake generally that men make, and I'm going to be super clear here. It is not your fault. If you're a man and you're listening to this, like, this mistake is not yours to own. It's something that all men are conditioned to, and all women can run the risk of expecting from men. But the greatest mistake that men make is assuming that they have to know the answer, that they have to know how to touch her body. They have to know how to get her off without a vibrator. They have to know how to lead and take charge and be dominant, but not too dominant, and read her mind and understand her boundaries. I think that men, the greatest mistake that they make is, instead of listening and being curious and asking questions, they feel, and they have been told, that men just know. And that if you're a real man, you'll want sex all the time. You'll be available and hard and up for sex all the time. You'll last as long as she needs to. You give her orgasms with just your cock. You won't have any other needs. You won't be energetically sensitive or sensually sensitive. And you'll not need any sort of like aftercare or emotional support related to sex and vulnerability and intimacy. And everything will just work until the day that you die. That's the narrative. The narrative is, don't have any complaints, don't have any needs in this department, just operate all the time perfectly. And of course, 99% of men don't meet that. 40% of men in their 40s and 50% in their 50s and so on deal with erectile dysfunction at least some of the time. So we know that men are having challenges and that's just their physical performance in the bedroom. That's not necessarily even including like energetic, emotional, mental stuff that's going on. They make the mistake of thinking that whatever they're dealing with, they're alone and nothing can be done about it. And they certainly can't open up to a female partner about it. Like, she wouldn't understand. She expects this from me. I'm supposed to just perform perfectly. They can never, ever open up with another person about, and they just need to suffer in silence or figure it out for themselves.
This has happened to me several times with different guys that I've dated, where they have the opposite of premature ejaculation. What can a man do who has the opposite problem? He may or may not stay hard. Eventually he loses his erection as well because he gets so frustrated. But why is it that men have trouble ejaculating, and what can they do?
Performance anxiety, the way that it manifests in the body. I think a lot of people think that premature ejaculation, erectile dysfunction, and delayed ejaculation are all like discrete things that all have a different physiological underpinning. They share foundationally the same things. It's just like presents in 3 different ways inside of each body, right? For delayed ejaculation in particular, often for men that are dealing with an inability to reach orgasm, an inability to ejaculate, whether that's with a partner, and often it is just with a partner that they have that difficulty. But if it also occurs when they're alone, especially, they have often conditioned their bodies to need a very intense amount of stimulus in order to reach orgasm. And if it's not their body, they have often conditioned their mind to need a very intense amount of stimulus. When I think about the body, that could mean years, even decades of masturbating with a dry hand. That could mean masturbating with a death grip, so a really strong grip. That could mean masturbating even with a toy, but a toy that is like a vibrating toy or something that delivers a ton of stimulation. And almost always there's some sort of history of piling on more and more stimulation. On the mental and emotional and energetic level, often they have conditioned their body to only be able to get off with porn, sometimes with a particular kind of porn, sometimes with porn that sort of mixes sexual visual content with more aggressive visual content. And those two things can get wired together pretty easily inside of the brain. So when we're having sex with a partner, it's not aggressive. We're having like consensual vanilla sex. And it doesn't get them to that same place because it's not triggering all of the same neural pathways as the porn that they maybe have been watching. I'm not saying that masturbation is bad. I'm not saying that porn is bad, but years and years of conditioning. Also, if they've conditioned themselves through a lot of edging, getting close to reaching orgasm and then backing off. Now, edging can be an answer for premature ejaculation. I believe very strongly in masturbation, but I believe in doing it very intentionally. All of these things can really add up to difficulty reaching ejaculation. But what they all essentially have in common is a lack of sensation, a lack of sensitivity, almost like a move towards numbness, right? Because if you keep adding and adding and adding, and your body keeps adapting to this higher level of stimulation, whether it's physical or visual, then you lose your sensitivity to the lower things.
Can we just shift gears? We talk about buttholes for a minute.
Yeah, I love buttholes.
Most guys, a lot of guys, especially in my generation, I'm a baby boomer. If you touch my butt, it means I'm gay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk to that because like a little stimulation around there, it feels really
on you
good.
or for him?
Both, but I'm talking about for him. So I'm like, why don't you try it? And it's don't touch that.
I know. I like to say buttholes are democratic. Everybody's got one. They're like a vote. Everybody's got one. You can choose to exercise it or not, but I think all of us benefit when we exercise them. I've been with many partners who did not consider themselves bisexual, but had no problem engaging in sexual acts with other men inside of like a group sex setting. We're like happy to exchange blowjobs with another guy if that would turn on the women in the foursome or at the orgy. Not a problem. They're just way more open to touching other people's bodies. So I think it's really important to make a distinction here. And I just touched on it, which is identity versus behavior. When they look at the behavior of engaging their butts in any sort of sexual play, even if it's with a cisgender heterosexual woman touching it or them themselves touching it, they go immediately to their identity. My identity as a straight heterosexual man is challenged if I engage my anus in anything sexual at all. Manhood is like bread. It has to be baked fresh every single day, right? And the way that you earn your manhood often is in relationship to money or muscles or your ability to have sex with and to attract women or your job or the relative amount of power that you have over other people. By associating them with what it means to not be a man, you secure your rights to claim yourself as a man. I'm a man because you're not, right? And because masculinity needs to be created all of the time, it's very fragile. And if you're hearing that and you're like, oh, that's a triggering word, like fragile masculinity, I don't like to be called fragile. Anything that can break so easily as someone touched your butt is by definition fragile.
And that's what makes our work so important because this is the space where it's safe for them to talk about what they need to talk about. I have 3 questions I ask all my guests at the end of the interview. What is your definition of sex?
My definition of sex is 2 or more people coming together in an intimate way that blends their energy, their bodies, their intimate parts to create something new that is temporary and ephemeral, and then separate.
Best orgasm you ever had?
Oh my God. How much time do we have? Our bodies happen to fit together extremely well. The way that our bodies were built was very conducive to a pleasurable sexual encounter. And he had a lot of upper body strength and was holding me up. And I had essentially what I've come to understand is like a Kundalini awakening. I felt like a lightning bolt shot right down through the top of my head, splitting me in half, hitting my cervix. I was high for 3 full days. I drove home that night and had to pull over on multiple occasions because I could not see. My eyes were like blurring back and forth, kind of as if you'd taken a drug, like your eyes kind of dart back and forth without your control. I was having that kind of experience. It was a life-changing experience.
Wow. How does that go from Harry
I'll
Met
have
Sally?
I'll have what she's having. I'll have what she's having.
And lastly, what is a fantasy that you haven't yet been able to enjoy?
I would like to be either wrapped in Saran wrap, like paint, they get sell it like when you're moving, like the giant rolls
like
of Saran. Yeah, I want to be mummified in Saran wrap. That fantasy came unlocked when I was watching a pallet be palletized in a factory. I was like, that looks hot to me. Or I would like to be vacuumed into a latex bed. But like
Oh
with
God.
flowers in particular, and like a nose and mouth hole. All of these things, all three of those really are just like sensory experiences that I
Yes.
haven't had. I don't know to the degree to which that they're like highly physically stimulating or arousing to me, but they all look unique and cool and fascinating, and I would just like to know what they feel like to try it at least once.
Wow. If you ever experience them, I'd love to hear about it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.